feel like you're drowning in decisions, but flying totally blind when it comes to your finances? Seriously, you guys, you are not alone. Today, I'm talking to one of my longtime clients and friends, Nico. Nico is a business owner who went from overwhelmed and unsure to confidently hiring, scaling, and even launching a second business. We're breaking down how clarity with your numbers can shift not just your strategy, but your mindset too. Let's jump right into my conversation with Nico. Nico, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Danielle. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
I know you are a returning guest, but for folks who have not met you yet, can you share a little bit about who you are, what your businesses do, and who you serve?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Nico Misla. I am a family nurse practitioner by trade. It's a gift from God, and I love everything that I do. I am very fortunate. I have two businesses. So I own Apollo Health Optimization, which is our medical clinic. We are completely virtual telehealth right now in the state of Ohio and Kentucky, and we serve male and female patients who are in need of primarily hormone replacement therapy, which has just been an amazing niche that we've discovered and grown into. So again, your men who are suffering from low testosterone, your females in perimenopause and menopause, even our younger patients who maybe struggle with fertility and things of that nature. So that's just been a real treat. The other business, which is more or less new, so to speak, we just started that. Officially, we started in September and we just launched our first product. That business is called HRT University. So a couple of years ago, I started training and teaching other medical providers, primarily nurse practitioners, but medical providers at large, how to do what I do, which is hormone replacement therapy for men and women, both on kind of the clinical side and even the business side of things too, which is really exciting. So we put out our course. It's called the HRT University Master Course, and it is like this A to Z. How do you do hormones as a medical provider?
So
how do you
needed.
prescribe them? And yeah, it's amazing. So it's really cool. It was like, I tell people it was like getting my PhD. It was like a thesis. Like I have all these studies and I wrote hundreds of pages, and then my wonderful, amazing employee, Emily, she put them all in these beautiful slides, and we recorded and video edited and all this stuff. So it's this really amazing package that we can provide now. And we, again, officially launched that like end of April. And it is just exploding, which is awesome. And so now I'm juggling two businesses, which I never thought I would do in my entire life.
Well, it's really exciting. And what you do in the world is absolutely amazing and needed. I know we went further into your story and some of the issues with our healthcare system in your last episode. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. As a woman who has needed those resources in both my life and my daughter's life, you have been a godsend.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely.
So I wanted to focus on how you use your numbers today and how you use them to make business decisions. But I want to rewind first. So before you started working with us here at Kickstart, what were some of the biggest challenges and frustrations that you were experiencing when it came to managing your business finances?
Well, it's such a good question. First of all, I couldn't even take credit for managing any of my business finances because I don't, and you really don't want me touching that stuff. I was very fortunate to marry way up, and my wife Sherelle really manages a lot of that stuff, and she's amazing. And she's actually very, very good at it. I think in her past life she was probably a CPA, but it was totally new to us. We got into the QuickBooks stuff pretty quickly, which is pretty straightforward to some degree, but if you just don't know what you're looking at in terms of business numbers, it's still meaningless. So we quickly recognized okay, we need an accountant and a bookkeeper also. Both of those things were super new to us. I mean, we'd always done TurboTax beforehand, and we'd never owned a business in our life. So the accountants that we would meet are, I guess I would just say, the most stereotypical accountants. They're quiet.
Yeah.
They're a little weird. They're pretty good at numbers. And I always told people you would meet them and they'd kind of give you the whole shtick of this is what we're going to do. And do your taxes here and there. And we would feel pretty confident after meeting with them. Okay, that sounds great. And immediately after kind of signing on with them, they would just ghost us. And it would just be pulling teeth to like try to get someone on the phone or like answer an email. Do I owe taxes this quarter, or like, do I owe it at the end of the year? How much am I making? All these burning questions that we had as new business owners. And I always joked it would be like, the week before our taxes are due, and they're reaching out to us like, Nico, we need 500 documents and all these different things, and you're behind. It was so stressful. So Sharon and I went through that. Like, I think in 1 year, no joke, I think in 1 year we went through maybe 3 accountants and bookkeepers, all who were, by the way, like highly referred to us. And it got us questioning, like, are we just like those people who like can't handle our stuff? And like, maybe we're the problem, It literally became that. And I remember thinking, if this is the way it's going to go, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to enjoy my business. And it was becoming that. We were really fortunate because we were doing really well pretty quickly early on in the clinic, so to speak. And, I just remember thinking we have got to find a way out of this. And basically another nurse practitioner who I didn't really know that well was like in a Facebook group, was like, hey, I work with like this Kickstart accounting team. They're in Ohio. I think you guys are in Ohio. You should check them out. And it was like immediately love at first sight. Like, I remember looking on your website and just being enamored with this idea of like, oh my gosh, they're basically doing this kind of amazing, almost like, dare I say, concierge type of accounting business, kind of similar to my business. Like, it's monthly payments and really reasonable monthly payments. I get apparently like my own accountant, and I get to like talk with her whenever I want, and email her. And we hopped on with Aubrey, who's like this little beautiful angel who just like comes down and blesses you with all these amazing personality. Anyways, it was just such a different feeling. I remember Shawn and I just praying, like, please make this a thing. Like, make this real. Don't make this like just a dream. And it was everything we could have ever wanted. It really.
What are some of the specific things that you've been able to do because you have access to your numbers and that data being sent to you on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think, I'm coming at this from a not numbers guy. What I feel is emotions and the psychology around money and numbers. One of the things I grew up, seriously, I'm not a math guy. I don't really care for numbers that much. They kind of freak me out, to be honest with you. I think I told you, Danielle, like, I'm the kind of guy who just like, if you just save your money and you never look at it and you never touch it, you'll be fine. And that's a terrible
strategy.
It's a interesting strategy. But, I felt really uncomfortable with it. And when I joined, one of the first things I noticed was I just feel better. I felt lighter. And I think it was because I had this very objective data, which is numbers, but also someone to actually describe those to me in detail and also not make me feel like an idiot and actually help me to understand them. And if I didn't understand them, they would just, my amazing accountant, Sarah, she would just continue to say, hey, Nico, okay, let me describe it this way. And she'd give these amazing analogies. And even just her telling me, Nico, we're good. I promise you we're good. This is okay. This looks good here.
It's okay.
It was amazing. It was so great. Again, even from just the psychology and emotional side of things, just there was this weight off my chest. But from a numbers perspective, Sarah and the whole team, really helped us identify where our strong points, where are kind of weaker points. Hey, Nico, we know you just started. So like, we can't say a whole lot of stuff on this end or that end, but we can tell you that you're doing great here. I remember one of the most important things that Sarah helped us do, our accountant with you guys at Kickstart, was to recognize that we could totally pay for a new hire. We desperately needed a receptionist. I was like functionally drowning is what I would call it. Like take gasps of air.
I like that.
And, again, I'm the kind of guy who's like, we'll be fine. We'll just put our head down. And my wife, Sherelle, was like, you're about to die. I'm about to die. We have to change something. And, well, let's just ask Sarah. And I just remember it being such an easy conversation of like, Nico, you're doing amazing. Look at this. You could totally afford to hire someone at exactly this much. How much do you want to pay her? Well, I'd like to pay her this much. Okay, great. You could totally do that. And look, you'd be fine for like the next 6 to 8 months if you did that. You'll be totally fine. That was so reassuring because again, in my head, I'm just like, I'm going to hire this person, then I'm going to run out of money in 2 weeks and the whole business is going to go under. So just super actionable bits like that were imperative because we doubled our growth literally after that hire too, which was, again, like I would have never suspected that.
The stories we tell ourselves around spending money is incredible. We are our own worst enemy and limiting belief, holding our business back.
1,000%. Yeah.
What are some of the other results or changes that you've seen in your business? And maybe this is even around starting your second business and what that was like.
That's a good question. I think, again, I listened to a couple different mentors of mine very, very closely. And one of them always said the most important person in your business is your accountant. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. And the way he described it was mostly like, look, at the end of the day, this is just a numbers game to some degree. I mean, there's emotion and psychology behind it, but when you really are able to kind of put those aside a little bit, you can really start making very strategic decisions and moves that, they don't have to feel like a gamble. I think that's what most people assume is like, oh, going into business, it's like, you might as well just like, I don't know, play the lottery or gamble. It's actually pretty scientific in a lot of ways. And when you really understand those numbers, you can make some very calculated decisions. And like anything else, of course, we could have pandemics and all kinds of crazy stuff happen. But at the end of the day, the numbers are still the numbers. And so when we started with you guys and just recognized, first of all, how freeing it was for us to just, hey, like we can just go work and do my thing and get clients in the door. I know that my bookkeeping and accounting is being done because I get these amazing graphs and charts every single month from my accountant. And it kind of breeds confidence into like, oh, okay, so starting another business wouldn't even be challenging. In fact, it could be really rewarding because I already know exactly what to expect here. And I know exactly what numbers we were looking at and tracking, whether it's my profit and loss or, my overall profit margins or, hey, like breaking down of services, like what are you selling a lot of? And like, what is something that's just totally, eating you alive and you can just get rid of? I think those were invaluable to me. Again, just having the confidence and the capability to even feel confident knowing I can start another business. I have the money to do this. All of that I just thought was super special.
I love that you were able to start your second business with more information and more empowerment. I think when we don't understand the data or how numbers play into the game of business, it can hold us back from pursuing the next level of whatever it is that we want to go after.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it really, again, you're kind of speaking to the psychology of everything, right? Which is, I think a lot of people just ignore that or don't recognize that. But really, once you can face the numbers and the reality, it does kind of just have this freeing, capacity to it, I guess.
Yeah. If you had to pick one thing that's been the most valuable part of working with Kickstart and having the bookkeeping being completed for you, the snapshot being sent to you each month, like what is the most valuable piece of having that in place?
I think I've spoken to a lot of the deliverables, which are stellar. I mean, again, I think a lot of people are looking for that. They're looking for timely accounting and bookkeeping. We're looking for that. We're looking for, these monthly reports that were promised and they're always on time. And, we're looking for timely messaging back and forth if it is around tax season and we've got a burning question. But I would say that at the end of the day, what we're all looking for is that transformation. Yeah. Because, the tangible goods and services and stuff are amazing. And certainly those add to it. But again, I'm a relationships guy, and I think most of us are to some degree. Again, we've talked about the emotion. We're humans. Yeah, we need that. And you've spoken to this well about your own team, and I think that speaks volumes about your own business. But Kickstart has always been a team where we are a active part of each other's lives in a very real sense. Like our accountant, Sarah, we know her, we love her. Like we know if we ask her a question, it doesn't matter what it is, she's going to get back to us. And she's going to have a really great response. We have an amazing relationship with Aubrey, and like working with her has been just a dream. And, I think again, that transformation of going from not confident, scared, worried, concerned to like confident, feeling prepared, feeling motivated to really pursue more it's unbelievable. And I think that is the difference with working with you guys.
I love that. Thank you for sharing all that. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd love to share about your experience or anything that we haven't touched on yet?
I think for me, again, one of the things that I personally value a lot outside of even the relationship is the kind of like looking forward to the future sort of thing. I've always appreciated that with Kickstart. Even Sarah has always been able to kind of help us vision out things. Okay, you're making this much now. What is that going to look like in 6 months? What are you guys planning on doing in 6 months? Again, actively taking a role in the business itself rather than just like, here are your numbers, Nico. And then they leave. It's like, here are your numbers. What are your thoughts? Here's my thoughts. Are you planning on hiring someone in the next 6 months? Are you planning on firing someone in the next 6 months? What are you guys planning on doing so that, again, this doesn't have to feel like a chore or a surprise 6 months down the road.
Yeah.
Like we can kind of, again, create some vision and landscape to your business, rather than it just feeling like, a very sterile relationship or sense of like, yep, here's your numbers. We'll talk about them some other time. Yeah. Who cares? See you later.
I call those coaching questions, yes. Coaching opportunities.
Yeah, a great way to put it.
We don't need anyone to present financial statements to us. Yeah, the snapshot is helpful to guide a conversation. However, it's a guide. It's more about talking to your client, talking to your bookkeeper about business and how it actually impacts the decision. So I'm glad to hear that is valuable. And I think at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is lonely. Mm-hmm. And to be able to have a team to celebrate, to commiserate, to think through things with, that's really the gold.
Absolutely.
What's next? You got 2 businesses. Are we opening up a third? Where's your focus today? Are we hiring? Where are we going?
I love it. We're actively. Well, we're practically done with the hiring process for Apollo. So the clinic is kind of moving in a direction which I've been hoping and praying for a long time, which is now opening the doors up to other nurse practitioners who want to work and also help a lot of the patients that we've accumulated over the years, which is amazing and super exciting. So that also just gives me a little more breathing room to pursue very heavily the education side of things. I've always loved teaching and educating, and the more and more I've stepped into it fully, I think we all have those callings, and it just feels more and more certain every day that I pursue it. And I quickly recognized that I just didn't have the time between the 2 businesses, and it is now this game of, okay, the growing pains are occurring in the sense of like, I've got to make this really big decision around Apollo. I'm a control freak. I love my patients. Hard. I don't want to see anything terrible happen to the business or, my clients and all that sorts of stuff. And again, it is so helpful to have a team, like you said, whether my wife, my receptionist, my accountant and bookkeeper, like all those people matter so much. And so I've felt really confident and finally like, okay, I think we're in a really good position here. So the next, really, I've said the next several years, I'm just going to sink my teeth into HRT University and grow and see what happens there.
All right. Awesome. Well, we will be here celebrating and cheering you on. And I love that you're able to be a resource for so many other business owners. And we'll continue to make sure that our community knows about your education as well.
Same to you guys. You guys have been, again, I can't imagine. I can't imagine doing any of this without you guys. And I've had so many amazing friends and colleagues who have been in very similar situations to me. And honestly, even colleagues who've been business owners for 5 or 10 years. And they have finally crossed over to the light side and joined with you guys. And they just speak so highly. And anyways, it's really a remarkable feat because it's not an easy chore to do accounting and bookkeeping all day long. Yeah. And you guys just do it flawlessly.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danielle.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Business by the Books. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. This is the #1 way we can help other entrepreneurs find this podcast. Because here at Kickstart Accounting Inc., it is our mission to help entrepreneurs understand their numbers, get access to this information, and grow and thrive in their business. So please help me help other entrepreneurs understand their numbers so they can finally grow and thrive.